Okay, hello, good afternoon to all that have already joined us. You're in the right place. This is our webinar, our GEM webinar on using artificial intelligence in entrepreneurship research. And my name is Aileen Ionescu-Somers. I am the Executive Director of GEM, and I will be moderating today. I'm not going to introduce our panelists yet because we still have people joining. And however, what I'm going to ask you to do whilst you're waiting is to let us know in the Q&A in two things. One of two things, or both if you wish. In what areas of your research work are you currently using AI? Right? That's the first question. And kind of you might like to mention like which platforms or which elements of AI are you using? And then what is the question you would most like answered or at least partially answered today? And that's an important one because actually what we're trying to do here today is open a dialogue. We want to open a dialogue because I think very few of us actually can claim that we are experts in AI. We are all researchers and we're trying to do our best to kind of adopt some of the great offerings of AI to either facilitate or improve the quality of our work. So we're opening a dialogue, not presenting ourselves as experts, and we want to present some, not necessarily even best practice cases, but some cases about what has started to work for at least two of the senior researchers that we have working on GEM and that are with us today. So for anyone that has just arrived, can you please complete the question, in what areas of your research work are you currently using AI? And what is the question that you're coming with today? What would you like answered, or at least partially answered? Now, it's just important you give us this feedback because our panelists can actually try and answer those questions and also can build on your mentions of the different types of AI that you are using in your research work, and so to cater better to your needs. So please go to the Q&A and don't be shy. We all have something that we're looking at as something that we're using, and just put it in. There's no right or wrong answer to these questions. It's not a test. It's just something that we would like to build on later on in our conversation, in our dialogue. So those are the two questions. I'll introduce them again later after we've heard the panelists. But for now, can you think about the questions? In what areas of your research work are you currently using AI? And if so, what platforms, what tools? And then what is the question you come with today? What's the question you come with today that you would like to get some information on? We're not claiming to give you the full answer. We may be able to give you a partial answer. And so, with that in mind, I'm going to just introduce, we now have 44 people with us. We have 150 people actually signed up for this webinar, which just shows you the level of interest in this artificial intelligence topic. It's clearly on researchers' minds, as it is in every single area of business and research. So can we just move to introduce the speakers for today? I introduced myself already, but first we'll be hearing from Maya Dougoud. She's in Switzerland. I say here in Switzerland because I am also in Switzerland. And Maya is with HEG Fribourg. It's a business school in Fribourg in Switzerland. Maya is a board member of GEM. And then afterwards, we will listen to Christian Friedl. He is with GEM Austria, and he is a longstanding member of GEM and also a board member of GEM. For your information, GERA means Global Entrepreneurship Research Association, which is the governance body of GEM. So without further ado, I will just hand over to Maya to introduce some topics that are primarily concerned with data collection, the start of the research cycle for us, and analysis. Over to you, Maya. Thank you.
For inviting me and for the opportunity to present my legal, because I'm a lawyer, and economic perspective on AI. So let's start with the first slide, where in my role as legal advisor for universities of applied sciences, I have had the opportunity to address the challenges of digitalization for 12 years, from business creation to patents, IP advice, and data protection compliance. Personally, my deep interest in the subject arose during a conference that I had the opportunity to initiate in collaboration with the International Association of Privacy Professionals under the hashtag Black Work Matters. It all seems from the observation that many decisions in both the public and private spheres are automated. So this is the ADM, automate decision making. In this ADM, the use of data, machines, and algorithms to make decisions in a range of contexts, including universities, public administration, businesses, and then you have different fields like health, education, law, employment, transport, media. They are used with varying degrees of human oversight or interventions. If you are wondering what biases look like, take a look at the first image. It was a video conference call where my colleague, a lawyer in Strasbourg, the AI was unable to read her face. It's the melanin bias. These discriminations piqued my interest in exploring the intersection of the legal, economic, and digital fields. During the pandemic, as you know, many universities organized the remote exams using softwares designed to identify cases of cheating based on eye tracking. This software identified and continues to identify where the eyes are looking and where attention is focused on. A person who cheats will look for information elsewhere than on the exam. It is therefore not surprising that when the application is unable to read faces inclusively due to a lack of algorithmic training, many students failed their exam because the tool could not read their eyes and identified them as cheating. As you can imagine, as a lawyer, I'm very concerned about the institution's responsibility for the discrimination, which, as a member, it's punishable in Switzerland as a reminder, by criminal code in Switzerland. The second image represents the birth of my dog. Why? Because November 2022, some personal story, but it's also the birthday of the ChatGPT, or the public development of ChatGPT. This picture is particularly significant in terms of the limitation of these tools, which are not intelligent. We talk about statistical occurrences. For example, a golden retriever is confused with the croissant. Finally, the third image illustrates, these days, the errors where a reference to a Swiss federal court ruling decision is transformed into a mathematical problem. So this is how I started with my job within the GEM databases and as a lawyer in this whole field. If we continue, we will be able to see that AI is also on the global level very interesting. It's not just a trend, it's an investment focus and expression of innovation. What specific indexes remind us of. In Switzerland, for example, there will be a shortage of 150,000 of ICT talents by 2030. It means in 5 years. So this is why we as a university or University of Applied Sciences, we have the challenge to transform and also to educate not only the entrepreneurs, but also our students, future entrepreneurs, to the AI. Also, a survey conducted by March and August last year in 34 OECD countries relevated that between 70 and 85% of companies are experiencing difficulties in recruiting qualified staff. Between 15 to 35% of them reported serious shortage. Now, if we move further, this is also something interesting because AI is also a scientific world topic. It's a cutting-edge field of research. And also there, we need some talents, but not also. Technology, AI technology, is also used for prediction and anticipation for research. For example, GESTA, this is where I took this radar from. It's a scientific anticipation tool that shows the future developments of science, and they focus on the next 5, 10, or 25 years. I invite you also to have a look at this specific scientific anticipator, what will also help you to develop your research and help also the entrepreneurs to choose the field of investment. And all of this is generated by an AI. Have a look now on the next, the skills. Okay, it's great, but what are the practical guidance for institutions? The skills required in this field are also known and addressed by the doctrine. We have a lot of writers that explain what is important in the AI field. Technical understanding, practical skills, critical evaluation, ethical consideration with different spots. On the international level, on the next slide, we will be able also to see what are the competencies framework for students. And we can consider also the continuing education that all of our institutions provide, and also the data that we use in GEM to help with this. So you can see that there is a human-centered mindset, ethics, techniques and application, and the system design. The Swiss academies also developed some guidelines that are addressed and that address SMEs. Here, for example, you can see what are the benefits for the SMEs and what they gain with using the AI and developing that. And this is a document that you can also access. All this, the links will be provided also at the end of the meeting. So this is the Swiss Science Academies that provide guidance and examples for AI for SMEs. Moving forward, on our side, as GEM Switzerland and in the collaboration with my colleague, Professor Victoria Abalkova, I have chosen to present to you today the AI visualization using the Power BI. This storytelling through interactive dashboards enables us to explore trends dynamically, identify relationship, translate complex indicators, provide tailored view. And to implement all of that, we had to have a look at the tricky questions. The implementation of this tool required attention to several points and the balancing and acceptance of contradictions, because transparency on one side faces the AI black box. We have the discrimination effects. We have to handle the data protection and the principles of data protection, the purpose of limitation of using data, the data minimalization, the storage limitations too. Then we had also to consider the manipulation with the balance between dominance by, with, in the tech and the autonomy by, in, with the tech, with these ethic eyes, human-centric. At the end, the questions that said is, where are we, and how can we assume the liability when also all these tools are not only homemade tools, they engage multiple stakeholders. From an operational standpoint, we also had to take note of the following. The AI, this technology, is in constant evolution. Yesterday we spoke with Aileen. She told us after 3 months it's too late. There is something new popping up. Multiple potential that arise from the AI, the ideology, the experience you need to have in choosing a tool, implementing the tool, using the tool, and make it accessible to all your team, and the collaboration that you need to express. After analyzing the risk, like processing errors, exposure of personal or sensitive data, standardization of the answers, loss of critical thinking at the end, we made a decision, go for it. In all of this, it's also important to remember that AI is a product with the relative product warranty in Switzerland, and that any personalization of this technology or personal projections are useless. Indeed, the hello ChatGPT, thank you ChatGPT, please ChatGPT added by users to their queries cost his company, his home, from Sam Altman, 10 of millions of dollars in electricity. It's just nice to remember also that, because with the GEM, we also address the sustainability in entrepreneurship. Finally, for the GEM community, to kick off this discussion and spark debate, I asked myself whether our questionnaires could be replaced by virtual entrepreneurs. Using AI bots. Ask them the question we ask all our entrepreneurs. A study from GIM, it's not GEM, it's GIM Switzerland, along these lines, was simulated for a market study for our federal post service. The findings are interesting. Not only are the user generated by AI attractive and nice, and of course all white, but the study also highlights that what is important and interesting with real people is that they provide elaborative and nuanced answers, that they are full of contradictions, that there is a lot of surprises that produces some innovation, and that they tell always complex stories. Of course, it will be interesting to have 8 virtual people that act quickly, that are inexpensive, that are somehow idealizing, but they reproduce the patterns and standardize the answers. They always respond well, without contradiction, without surprise, and without this complex story. So I would say now, today, we are not ready yet. Perhaps there is a technology that you are able to report that we can use and analyze that. Finally, and this is my last slide, I'm making available some recommendation I produced in 2021 at the International Summit of Privacy Professionals, what we need to do and to implement, to due diligence, what do we need to handle in development and deployment of AI, and how important is the collaboration with all the stakeholders. So that was my part. One more time, thank you for having me here with you.
Thank you so much, Maya. Extremely interesting and fantastic that you were able to go so much in depth in your work on the ethical dimension as well, which is not a small dimension by any means. I think people are just perhaps diving into AI without quite realizing what it might always mean. And one has to kind of take a step back, even though the field is very dynamic right now for sure.
Of
But,
course.
but we owe it to ourselves not to go too quickly. Um, so just before I hand over to Christian to show you some use cases that he has experienced, could I just ask you, now that you are all on board here on the webinar, the questions that I put up in the very beginning, which were, first of all, in what ways are you using AI in your everyday work? I see some questions that came in, but some of them are specific, but many of them are not very specific. So I'm actually asking you to be quite specific. What areas and what particular tools are you actually using? So that would be really useful to build a dialogue afterwards. And also, do you come here with a question that you would like answered, or at least partially answered? We have a few of those, but given that there are more than 50 of you online right now, I think we can do better, have more questions in the mix. So please feel free to put in those questions at any time, and we'll pick up on them at the end of Christian's slides. So over to you, Christian. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for having me, and thanks Maya for the inspiring talk. I try to follow up now because I thought I'm also more like a curious user than an expert in AI, but I like to try out things, and I would like to share what we try out currently, what we have tried out, what we try to see in the future. So it's more like a bottom-up approach. It's not strategic, at least not yet. And we have many questions which have been raised by Maya as well. But maybe I just share what we are doing, and we are far from being experts here, but for some things we get good results, for others not so well, and we have some ideas where this journey could lead. So I think that's something, which could be interesting also for the discussion afterwards. So the first thing is that, and it's obvious, I think everybody's doing that already. I would say we have really good results with that, because we started previously in JAM with a team of 5 people. Currently we are 2. And the third team member is this guy here, is our AI companion. He's our jack of all trades team member. So we try to find different team roles and use cases on a daily basis almost. And of course, one of the things was that we created a customized GPT, which means we uploaded all our previous reports. We trained the GPT how to, first of all, to know the JAM terminology, to know our writing style, to understand the data, and then we just feed it with the results. What are the outcomes? Of course, we guide it through. So we, for example, say, compare these countries. Here are those findings we'd like to add. And then it works quite well. Of course, you have to be super transparent of that. So we have AI now as a co-author of the report. We make it clear in the beginning. And of course, I mean, I don't have to say it here, but we always have to double check there's a good dose of mistrust necessary. But it doesn't stop here. So we, for example, produce country spotlights. So we use the global JAM report, and then we try to find interesting countries comparable to Austria, sometimes good practices, sometimes similar countries where we see similar patterns. We try to find countries with good practice, and we draft those spotlights, and we send it then to the other countries, because we do not want to ask other team members to write lengthy extra articles for our report. And it really gives a lot of value to our reports, because it shows the global dimension of JAM in our national report. Another thing we are, you could maybe still go to the previous slide. Another thing we always do is we discuss, like in every research article, we discuss the findings, and this has really like times 10 become much more faster than it used to be, because we just triangulate different studies from the startup scene, but also macroeconomical data, and try to contextualize the findings. And with Perplexity and other tools, also Notebook LM, to triangulate reports, we are much faster. Of course, you have to double check every source and everything. It's what are the outcomes, but it's so much faster than it used to be. Yeah, that's so much. I think that's pretty obvious. The other thing is also super obvious. but also really it saves us a lot of time, to be honest. It makes the outcomes much better, I have to say. So we have the AI storyteller, and I think that's one of the current main use cases, which are obvious for at least for large language models, is to translate the long reports for different audiences in the right way. And this can become like a podcast creator. I think we, Notebook LM. There are different opinions about it. Some are not satisfied. For some use cases, it's enough. I have quite good results of it. Also, now you can have it in different languages. So it's not restricted to English anymore. And also there is an interactive button, so you can even, for example, if there are some terminologies are pronounced in the wrong way, you can correct that. Of course, I heard already opinions, and we discussed it also before this webinar. People do not like to listen to robots speaking about something, but sometimes it's nice to have a summary of a long report. We have more than 100 pages for the Austrian report, but here they nail the main content in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Yeah. Then of course for social media, it's automated. They know our style, how to write on LinkedIn. So we just feed it with the data, and LinkedIn, it produces all the graphics and the posts, the emojis, whatever you want. And we try to prompt it in a way that you cannot tell automatically after 1 second this is AI generated, because we know already that people scroll further if they have the suspicion. Same goes for website news, press releases. I mean, it's obvious, but it's still something which is really strong for us. Also, when it comes to design presentations, I don't know if you experience with Gamma, for example. You just upload your report and it produces slides. Sometimes good, sometimes you need to rework them completely, but it's sometimes it does the job and you save a lot of time. We have a light version of Jam, which has been produced with AI, of course, double-checked and improved by us. But it's so much faster to do it with this way. And this afternoon, I have another workshop on Botune, which is a tool to create short animated videos. I think that's the next step we are going to do with our report communication. There are other tools, of course. That's just what tools we are currently experimenting with. Yeah, next step, currently under development. I think that's the main question also in your questions, how to prepare the data that AI is able to work with it. We have already started a discussion also with Maya and other teams, because we have an immense amount of data collected over the last 25 years. And of course, the big the large job now is to harmonize the data and to make it the same way for all the teams, and that AI can work with it. We also have an extra research project with through the Explore initiative with the University of Economics Vienna and EY Austria, where we try to use AI to explore patterns within the existing data. And the final step would be, and that's the final use case in the future of GEM, and I think we have to look at that we can create forecasting models based on previous GEM data in combination with other macro environmental data or other indicators. And for that, of course, the basis is the right preparation of the data. This is what we're currently doing. And that's I know it's provocative, but I'm convinced if not we are doing that, others will do it. So there will soon become, or there will soon be some entrepreneurship or other research studies which do not collect real data anymore, or not only. So at some point we have to, I think, try to be, the pilot of this development and not the passenger. So we have to experiment with that. What Maya raised in the end of her talk was the AI-generated entrepreneur, which is going to be interviewed. The same could be done for experts, and we have a lot of past GEM data for APS and NES. There are many global data sets existing. There are other country-level economic, social, institutional, demographic indicators. We can learn from social media signals, trends, and so on. There are a lot of digital footprints existing, and we could use that for filling in missing data for gap years or whatever, or sometimes some indicators. There's a lot of missing values and stuff. We could try to improve the robustness of panel data. And of course, the next step would be this forecasting, predicting future values. And because the thing is, the most expensive part of GEM for the national teams is the data collection, and it's a lot of work to the data clearing and everything. Maybe there will be a side project in the future where we continue with, of course, the real data collection, but we could create a second collection and then compare if how well are those AI augmented data models working. And it can run in parallel, and maybe at some point we can make part of the sample or collect part of the sample with that approach. Maybe this is a very provocative statement, but as I said, I think if we are not doing it ourselves, others will do it. And to close up, we're not the only ones. I think many also in the audience today are experts in that field. So I think we have to bring all those examples together and learn from each other. I know, for example, at least that other GEM countries, and this list is far from being complete, but others are also using, for example, Power BI, which is also a great starting point. I'm sure others are already experimenting, maybe even with data generation, creation. So I think that's the beauty of GEM, where we have so many experts, teams around the world, and we need to come together and leverage that. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Christian. Again, great insights based on real experience. And again, for our audience, we're actually not putting ourselves up as being complete experts here, because nobody basically is who is an academic researcher, because that's not the core of what they're doing. But yet, as you can gather from what Christian has introduced and what Maya talked of earlier, AI has the potential to completely disrupt the way in which we carry out research. And for GEM, which has been a long-standing, we actually celebrated we are still celebrating our 25th silver anniversary. It's a longitudinal project. We have a lot of data already collected. The question actually that I'm going to first ask is, when you think of that longitudinal data, and isn't there a risk if we disrupt too quickly and with too many elements, that we will disrupt also the data set in its longitudinal perspective? Would either of you like to comment on that? Because our data team is always very, very concerned when a national team changes anything in its data collection method. So Christian, would you like to maybe
of course, and that's what I meant. I think such things should be done only really carefully. But I mean, it's not a problem because we can carry on with the data collection as it is, but we can collect additional data with new approaches and then compare. I mean, we do not need to replace that.
The point is to
I have a bit of fear of this Kodak moment, when we say, okay, we would know where it goes, but we are not doing it because we disrupt ourselves. So that's very dangerous because others will.
It's a danger, yeah. And I mean, people are with a 25-year project. That is the risk, because we have a lot of people, we have a lot of researchers and teams who have been with us almost that entire 25 years, actually. We have a core of solidly loyal countries which have been carrying out, this research for so long. So changing mindsets is part of the issue. I think we talked about that yesterday, Christian. And changing mindsets is just about the most difficult thing in any organization. This I know from my own research. And Maya, would you like to comment on that particular question, or shall I move on to something else?
Always a risk when you handle data, even if it's in your pocket, on your wallet, on the written paper, there is always a risk to lose it. There is always a risk that this information is no more actual. There is always a risk when you handle with data. So this is why it's so important to choose a good tool and to take time in choosing the tool where you have less risk. And also what we have experienced is sometimes in the migration of the data, because when you use another platform, another software, is that with the AI technology, of course, the migration of the data itself is also a very complicated process. That is also very risky and time costing. But this is why you need always to have the double backup, but then you have the limitation of the storage. So there is not the perfect decision. But we also need to say that if we are innovative and all the businesses, the future questions are not, are you using yes or no AI? It's which kind of, because we see that the businesses that use AI are able to handle in another way the resources, the human resources, the technical resources, and we gain time. And also it's not replacing human, not at all. It's just giving also some more qualification to the humans that are there in order to not only double check, but to construct on something what comes out of. And it's really a plus. And the businesses that will be there in the next 5, 10, 25 years, they need to take this path of digital, but of course human-centered. And also the research shows that there are already popping up in the AI field other technologies that combine human sciences and technologies, and this is called like alternative AI. So there is a lot of going on even on these specific fields, but a zero risico, but in the digital sphere doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think the clear message coming from both of you is you have to get on this bandwagon and now, otherwise you will risk being left behind. But be careful about it, both from a use perspective, pilot, use pilots, make sure that you move forward carefully, but also from an ethical perspective, make sure that you've covered your ground. I did have a question on the ethics, the ethical implications of AI use in the research process. I mean, I figure you've covered that, Maya, but would you like to add anything there to deepen your perspective on that?
Yes, so I can speak from the Swiss perspective. Of course, there is a lot of also indication, not only from the ethical part, but also from the legal part. So it's another implication that obliges us to handle with responsibility and with the maximum of inclusion, handling also all these biases. Because at the end, when you take a decision to implement that tool, that at the end produces a lot of problems, you need to assume. So this is a question of liability and of responsibility. And you can never say, so the technology, it's not a legal personality that you can go and assign on the court. So at the end, the human is always responsible. But this is also a question of deontology and of scientific integrity. And we have a lot of informations, and in some countries, they brought it down in the national strategies. What does it mean? How do you need to handle? For example, Germany has that. How important is that to include the ethics in all these questions? And also for us, taking money from the public domain to develop the research in the public domain based on the taxes of all our public population. So it also involves some responsibilities, of course. So you cannot go without the ethical concerns. And also this is something what we in Switzerland, we are always watched, and this is the Algorithm Watch. This is one NGO that also provides a platform when you can see which public institution, is that a hospital, is that a tax office, is that, you know, what are they doing with the data, how transparent is that, just in order to also be compliant, not only with our public responsibilities, but also for us as researchers with the integrity, academical integrity, and the deontological requirements.
Yeah. Okay, would you say Switzerland is kind of leading the field at the moment in terms of the thinking on ethical issues around AI, or are there a group of countries, or how is this going?
So Switzerland is, as you know, the country of the fundamental rights, but we are not better than others.
Okay.
I also need to admit that there is a lot of initiatives. We have a lot of institutes that handle this human digital, the ethics for themselves, and this cross materials. But at the moment, we are asking ourselves, do we need a new regulation on AI that will introduce that? Do we copy paste the EU Act, AI Act? How are we implementing all these initiatives? And at the moment, we do not have this specific sentence specifically directed to the AI in our integrity documents. But, you know, it's coming. We are working hard on it.
Okay. Well, I actually, as you're speaking, I'm kind of thinking, we actually at GEM have, the board has recommended putting an AI task force together. And Christian and Maya are part of it, but we also have one of our researchers in Spain that's part of us. Our GEM operations manager is part of it, and I myself also kept it small for now. But basically it is to kind of put our finger on the pulse of this issue and come up with some recommendations on how GEM in particular, because it's a very specific activity, can best use AI. Now, there's a question, I'm just looking at the questions that came in, Christian, and a lot of the questions are not a few of the questions are around what are the soundest tools for each task, you know? That I think that is a little bit of a conundrum. What I see right through all the questions is that most people here are actually at what I would call probably an early stage of development in AI, because they're using ChatGPT in different ways. Nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely great. But there are much more sophisticated, well, even more sophisticated, let's put it that way, options for researchers. So I wonder, can you talk a little bit like that? Because we also have questions on, for example, how can we use AI, you know, to get in data analysis? Okay, so that's an important one for us. How can AI help to draw insights from data? So are there tools apart from ChatGPT, Christian, that we could actually pin up there and say, well, these tools, yes, they're being developed to draw insights from data on a rather more sophisticated level?
Yeah, it's a huge question, to be honest, because that's also one of the main overwhelming things at the moment. When you open up, I don't know, LinkedIn or something, there are recommendations for 20 different tools every day. And you feel overwhelmed because sometimes, of course, everybody knows ChatGPT, but then you hear, okay, now forget PowerPoint, now use Gamma, or XList that, now comes blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I think that's also part of this task force we have created, where that was just the first meeting yesterday, but the next step would be to open up to the GEM community and to collect those best practices. I think and what we are currently seeing is this next stage of AI agents. I think that's the most interesting next step that's going to happen. So it's not one single tool doing one single task anymore. We are entering now this era where we have agents, like, you know, really a team member sitting next to you who is able to do different things, and it comes with one solution. integrating systems, because that's normal. It's the moment, it's closed AI environment, where you have ChatGPT, you feed it with your prompts and it stays within the environment. But now the next stage has evolved, where those, you go beyond the interface. I'm hesitant actually to give recommendations. I had a few recommendations in my presentation for creating presentations, for, I don't know, making literature research. There are some also examples in the chat forum. I would like to refrain at the moment. In this research project with the University of Vienna, this is not about LLM, it's about automated machine learning and, writing the algorithms. So this is not generative AI. But I think, Maya, you work a little bit more on a data analysis at the moment. Maybe you have some things to share here.
Yes, we have chosen to start with the Power BI, but it needed also we need to have a methodology that is proven, that the data we upload and the results we get, that they fulfill the quality of the GEM data and analyze in a traditional way. So this is why we started, first of all, in testing, creating this handbook in order to have something in a written, a process, a clear methodology that if we follow also in the harmonization of the data that we implement in the tool to request the generation of something, of the analyzing the data. So we started with the written part and the process part with the handbook. We are not finished yet, but just in order just for you to understand, it's 150 pages.
Yes.
And this is also the complexity. So it's easy to click and to say, because we are scientists and we also need to have some precision in what we do and the clear methodology. So if you describe every step and have a look at the back office of the tool itself, you really need to take the time and to make it clear, and also to propose that in the peer review, because it's not only our idea, like you have also shown, Christian. There is a lot of other countries using also the Power BI, and we would like also to align and to use this common thinking and common experience to make something that does not, even if it's easier to use the technology, but that does not touch to the quality of our research. So it means to the output we get within the tool. I would like also now to jump in something else, because we spoke a lot about the ChatGPT, and also there I can provide, we have something, but it's only in French, sorry for that, but it's legible. I will send that, so you will receive that afterwards. But also the question, when you use the ChatGPT for your research, it's really important to mention them in the references. And there is a proposition we have made, also according to the citation methods, how to cite the fact that you have used the ChatGPT or the copilot. For example, if you use the ChatGPT, you have in the references OpenAI, 2024, ChatGPT version 3.5, close, logiciel of treatment of language, https://chat.openai.com/stat. You need to write everything in your biography as a reference. Other thing, if you use the ChatGPT to resume or to work on another document that is not yours, also there, the proposition of reformulation of something from another author, you are supposed in this integrity, scientific integrity, to mention, for example, for Colas Open 2029, via ChatGPT closed. So you need to mention with the whole transparency what you have done with ChatGPT and the level of use in this way. Regarding to that, it's just about copyright and authorship. And there was also one question regarding to that in the chat. should we consider these tools as co-authors?
Yeah.
And there was one very interesting decision from the court. It was in China. It was in generating an image. And they asked this question to the court: if I make a prompt, please create this, and that, I ordered to the tool to create something. So it means that I'm the full author. It's not the tool itself. And what was interesting with this decision, so in China, but it's applicable, so we have not that much court cases with AI. But what was interesting is not to be considered as full author without the tool. You need to provide 150 different prompts in generating one image. And they consider if you have 150 orders, at the end, the tool was not that independent to create that itself. The other thing is that these AI tools, you need to mention that they generated that, but you also need to consider that everything what they have generated, and there is a lot of open court conflicts now. We are waiting for the decisions because we know that everything what they generate, they take it from something that is already covered by copyright. So you cannot ignore and say, oh, the tool provided that, it's okay. You need to consider they have taken that somewhere, and there might be a copyright problem because they generate something on the basis something what somebody else generated. And there is the Times magazine. It has, for example, one open case now because with the text generation, they say, hey, you are using our work and we paid that for that. It's not okay now to upload just what we have done in the ChatGPT and to generate things with our own copyrights. So that was just to also go a bit further in the legal and in the scientific recommendation to mention how to mention. I can share, like I said, this document. It's in French, but you can just see
with
some
AI, you can get a translation and a perfect one, you know. So we have, if our participants would look at the questions, if you're not looking at them already, there's some quite interesting comments from Lu Nguyen, who is giving some pointers on how he is using AI, you know, for literature review, for content analysis, and the tools that are being used, transcribing interview recordings, so Notebook, Chat GPT Plus, and Notai.
Yeah, also Ulrike mentioned that, for example, DeepSeek she's using for data analysis would be really interesting to learn about her experiences here.
Yeah.
We have many teams working with Power BI. There are many more like Tableau or yeah, I don't know. There are like 20 currently data analysis AI tools, and it would be interesting to learn more about that. And there was also one question about how accurate we think when we have real interviews compared with you know,
yeah. So the
AI
question is, if you ran a survey using real participants and the same survey with AI participants, how closely do you think the AI results would match real life? And how accurate is synthetic data?
That's what we would like
we
to
don't have the answer to that, I think. We need to do a lot more piloting, right?
Yeah.
I can provide the study that was made with the comparison between the 42 real person and the 8 AI generated persons, and you will be able to read what came out.
Okay.
It's a lot of more standard answers. So it's you can already make some comparison, but yes, I can. So it will be on the slide and the link, and it will also answer partially to this question.
I also have one example related to that. It's not a comparison, but it gives you, I think, maybe a better feeling, because at the end of the day, it depends how you feed the machine. was at the design thinking workshop in Potsdam, and they showed us really exciting use cases how AI could be applied in the design thinking process. And one case study was they just extracted the reviews from TripAdvisor from the Berlin Zoo from the website with a web scraper. I don't know, it was done in 5 minutes, and they're like 800. They only looked at the negative reviews, so 1 and 2 star reviews. And based on this data, they created the 3 most common problems of that target group. Then they created personas out of that, and then they brought them to life. They made AI avatars, and then they made customer interviews. And that was so interesting because that was not just hallucination, but it was based on real data produced by people, on the website. Okay, now we can discuss if TripAdvisor reviews are real done by real people, but still, you got a real good feeling, and it felt real to me when we interviewed those people. So yeah, that's and then the next thing was we used AI for solving those problems, and also analyzing the interviews, of course. So like the NES open questions, we can easily make a content analysis with AI, and then look at the intercoder reliability with the human content analysis. So I think in every little step, it depends on how you feed the machine, as I said,
Yes.
and if this is properly done, I see a huge potential. Of course, I mean, that's a main problem. Original content nowadays, it doesn't pay off that much anymore to produce original content, because everything is, copied from each other. and and now when we, I don't know, the business model of Google currently being flipped, there's really the question about original data in the future, but that's a different discussion. But I think at the end of the day, it depends how clever you are in setting the baseline for the automated use case, or whatever you want to do on top of that.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of open questions here that no one, I think, can quite answer yet until one goes into in the trenches, as it were, to kind of actually test a lot of concerns. I have heard that DeepSeek, and this maybe you can comment on, Maya, as a last comment. DeepSeek is actually, which Ulrika Gulick, this is our leader in GEM Thailand. She uses it. She uploads the data sets. She gets really good analysis out of that. But I've also heard that DeepSeek allows confidentiality of data to a larger extent. It's more, if you like, hardwired. Is that so, or can we rely on that yet? I mean, are we still in a testing zone with that also, or do you know?
So there is different perspectives of data protection, and in different countries it's covered in different ways. In Switzerland, we take care and we have some recommendation to use the tools that are based in Europe. But as you know, we try to develop some technologies, but we are also very depending of others. So there is the choose sending the data and the information to the US, or sending the data and the information to China. Of course, it's a decision of governance, because there is always a risiko, and the regulatory recommendations we made is not to put financial information, personal, sensitive, so it means health and other information on these platforms. But even if it's a clear recommendation, people do that.
Yeah.
So it's quite difficult to handle this data protection with or without the AI tools, because it's also a question on the website you go. We also sometimes forget that all these translation tools, these are also the AI tools. So it means when you try to translate something, please take out the names and the confidential informations. So it needs also to be, we need to educate the users if they do that, what is the risiko? It doesn't mean they are not supposed to use it, but just in order that if they use that they have all the information to assume if there is at the end a problem.
Okay. Well, that's so I think very clear messages coming out here. Handle with care, but also be curious and experimental and move as quick as you can while handling with care, because we all need to be on this bandwagon. What I would like is that we try and get you a copy also of the questions and answers, because it gives you quite a good idea of where quite a few researchers are at in terms of using different tools for AI. You will receive obviously the recording and the PowerPoint slides and the references that Maya pointed to. And I hope this has been useful for you. Anyone out there that may know of a national team that isn't already on our books, which our national teams are listed in our website, please, try and be an ambassador for us and either join yourself or suggest to someone that they might join GEM if you are already part of a team. We really need that help, and we look forward to you on the next webinar. No doubt we will be having another webinar on AI. And thank you very much, Christiane and Maya, for being on the panel today. Your time is very appreciated, and thank you. And well, have a very nice rest of the day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you as well.